Good afternoon and welcome to our March speaker series. My name is Latoya Foster and I'm with She Built This City, and we are ecstatic about this panel today around how trades training is being impacted by technology. And we have some industry and thought leaders on our call today, and I am excited to engage in this conversation. But before we do that, I wanted to set the stage a little bit about She Built This City and our pledge. So She Built This City is a nonprofit organization focused on igniting interest in construction and the maker trades for girls, career-choosing women, and non-binary individuals. We know that it starts early. Career decisions are made early. So we know that as early as 6th grade, if a young lady has not chosen a STEM field, the likelihood of her choosing that diminishes significantly. So we want to expose early and often to things they are not often exposed to. And so for us, those are the hammer and nail skills of the basics of the construction trades, but it's also the future of the trades. That is your 3D printing, virtual reality, simulators, virtual learning, coding, things of that nature. And I have to change my spiel because I keep saying the future of training. It is the now of training, and that is the focus of our topic today. The pledge that we have put out, 50-50 by 2030, that is to hold ourselves and our partners accountable for the world our young ladies will enter once they graduate from these training courses. 3 areas of that pledge are important to us: diversity, equity, and inclusion. That is diversity at all levels of your leadership, diversifying recruitment sources. We talk about hospitable working environment, place, space, and policy that are pro-women. And we focus on investing in the future. That is investing in youth, investing in apprenticeship and training programs, and investing in technology. This conversation sits solidly in our last pillar of investing in the future with touches of diversity and inclusion. And so without further ado, I want to introduce to you our moderator for today. Our moderator is none other than Mr. Jorge De La Jara. Jorge is with Lowe Industries. He is the Senior Director of the Pro Customer Engagement, as well as with Generation T. Jorge's background, though, before this is deep in diversity, equity, and inclusion. He has also been the leader of the Latin American Chamber of Commerce. I'm going to save space for him to introduce himself more authentically as he would like to. But before I do that, I want to share a little bit about the Generation T initiative through the sharing of a video. After the video, the next voice you will hear will be Jorge De La Jara.
They said our capes didn't show to enough class to be heroes. They said we were the butt of the joke because we didn't attend their Ivies. But they forgot to mention, debt is not the prereq to living the dream. You don't have to lean on a desk when you have the drive to design your own league. By design, these hands summon creativity. Technology and trade. 2 converging paths, Mother Earth and Mother Board, shaping the terrain for the next generation. We are the rightful journeymen, the waymakers. When the banks crash and the stocks fall, we set the bearings straight. Scrape our knees on sunbeams, hold families together within the framework of our mind, turn businesses into our business. With the vision that keeps the lights on, we build a better world out of thin air. This is the what if for the future masters of trade. The electricians and bricklayers, solar power technicians, energy auditors, tiny home builders for the ones who don't care about the color of a collar. Craftsmanship is a calling. What if the naysayers were so worried about making it in society, they forgot to value the hands that make the society? What if you could live the life you've always dreamed right from where you are? Your career choice isn't a matter of right or wrong. It's a matter of knowing what you can do. There's work to be done. Are you ready?
So I think it's my turn, right, Latoya? Well, thank you. Every time I see this video, it gives me the chills and I get fired up about Generation T. Well, thank you, everyone, and welcome everyone for taking the time to join us today. We're looking forward to having you and having interactive and engaging conversation with this amazing panel. So I know we have very short time and I want to make sure that we have enough time for Q&A along the way. So I want to start just hit it right away and introduce our panelists right now. So we have today Brandon Lindsay, VP of Operations from Hoopaugh Grading Company. We also have Michael Smith, CEO of Teach Construction, and Elizabeth McInnes, Director of Industry Lift. So welcome to the panel. Thank you again for taking the time to spend some time with us and really talk about just what's happening in the industry right now and just share your expertise with that. So let's jump into right from to the conversation. Are we ready?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. So I have a quick question for everyone. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and in 5 minutes or less, tell us about your company and what are you known for. So why don't we start with Brandon?
Be with you today. I just before we get started, I want to say thank you to you and Latoya for inviting me to be a part of this and for the work that you're doing through Generation T and She Built This City. It's great work and desperately needed, and it's an honor to be with you and with the other panelists today. I'm with Hoopaugh Grading Company here in Charlotte, North Carolina. We are a general contractor that serve clients in North and South Carolina. We've been around since 1953. We specialize in turnkey site development services and currently have about 575 team members that work hard every day to help us be the best.
Mm-hmm. Good. Thank you, Brandon. Welcome again. Michael.
Thanks. I'm Michael Smith with a social organization or a social enterprise called Teach Construction. So we primarily focus on creating the tools that teachers need to do exactly that, to teach construction. As the 21st century came in and keeps running, it's interesting to see how in construction, other than in pockets, we're still pretty much an analog world. So we often say we're trying to help teachers teach digital or analog topics in a digital fashion. We do that through videos, through presentation slide decks for teachers, through providing them question banks that align with that, skills exercises, and a full suite of tools for instructors. So I love the video you played, and we often hear about the color of your collar. I'd like to see us at some point move past the color of our collar and just help people build their passion.
Thank you. Thank you. Elizabeth.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth McInnes. I'm with Industry Lift. Prior to Industry Lift, I was a marketing director at FabSuite, which was a steel management software company that was acquired by Trimble in 2018. I was there till about 2019 when I joined the Industry Lift team. I've been with the skilled trades industry for about 5 years now, and I live in Williamsburg, Virginia. Industry Lift is a public benefit corporation, and we focus on lifting the skilled trades industry. It was started by Bill Isler in 2018. He was the founder of FabSuite, and again, he sold FabSuite to Trimble in 2018, and he started Industry Lift as a means to fill the career gaps within the skilled trades. He has been in the industry for over 40 years, and year after year, he sees where jobs are being left unfilled, untaken care of, and so we started Industry Lift as a means to start working on filling that gap. We work with youth, the businesses, and organizations, and we focus on educating younger generations on skilled trades, the careers available, and the steps to getting there. We use a lot of what we call the latest technology, but like Latoya said, this has been around for a while, and we're focusing a lot on industry VR gaming right now, or gamification. Ours is less game training and more just the taste of what the game or the career could be. We identify that the younger generation, technology is kind of their language. And so in doing so, we've been building games We also been working on user stories, or what you would call testimonials, to reach, and most recently VR exhibitions, which I'll talk about a little bit later on. So we're working on different means to meet and reach the younger generation, but also fill the gaps within the organizations such as She Built the City and businesses, and assisting and helping. So that's our goal.
Well, thank you, Elizabeth. And I'm gonna stay with you for a moment so we can you can touch on some of the questions I have. And I'm really intrigued about your perspective about what are the barriers in construction education and how can technology be used to overcome these challenges. So I know you touched a little bit about that. So do you mind spending a little bit more? How can we expand technology within this within the skilled trades in education?
So as far as technology goes, again, focusing on VR gaming or gamification, again, it has a game aspect. It's our games. We have currently 6, and we're building our 7th right now. And there's, timing, how fast can you do it, that kind of thing. But they are virtual reality. They are headset based, and it's more a taste of the career rather than any kind of training. There is training being done, but that's not our main goal. It's just bringing more of the fun aspect to it. And with the gaming VR, putting the headset on, can you handle the heights? Because you can almost, it's real, you can feel it. We have a bolting game, and how fast can you bolt, but more, this is what you would be doing and this is how it'd be going. So reaching the youth, kind of like I said, on their ball, on their field, right? Like reaching them in their love language. So in doing that, we have games, we have them available. Our goal is to work with other companies and industries to build the games out for them. We're working on right now that's really awesome, in that if you don't have a virtual headset, our game that we're building currently is web-based. So anybody can pull up on their web and play it, and it doesn't have to be VR, because we do identify that not everybody has access to a virtual reality headset. So kind of bridging the gap there as well.
No, that's really good. And I've been very blessed and lucky to experience those VR sets. And you're right. I mean, there is real. I mean, to the point that I get the goosebumps because I play some video games, but also do the trade training. It's really fascinating to me how effective this learning is for the skill trade. So great work, and thank you again for sharing that. So let's jump very quickly to Michael. Michael, what are the barriers in construction? The same question for you in education, and how can technology be used to overcome these challenges?
Well, barriers in education are the same that we see in the industry. We've got an aging workforce. So depending on what data point you look at or what trade, you've got an average age of 45 to 55. The younger side for some of our early entry positions, but for more of our skilled licensed trades like electricians and plumbers, you're on the high side. The challenge is, so are our educators. So a 55-year-old or greater educator with all that institutional knowledge is retiring soon too. Now, they may have been teaching for the last 20 years, and when they leave, a lot of that knowledge goes with them. So what we're trying to fill a gap of is that knowledge gap that they're leaving behind. So it's using technology, using a easy to access and low cost educational materials, so the burden is not on the school to solve a problem that, quite frankly, industry created and our community created. Yes, schools got rid of shop class, but schools are our community. If we want our community to do anything, as in anything in a democracy, you get involved. So there's got to be ways to have organizations like yourselves, Jorge, and as well as people watching this video, to get engaged with your schools. The best high tech is almost low tech to engage with schools and provide a pathway to a solution, to a pathway to careers. And as LaToya started at the top of this, and make sure those careers are equitable and attainable by all people, not just a certain people that all look and talk the same.
No, thank you for sharing, Michael. Really intriguing and fascinating the work that you're doing. I've been watching you and also reading your website. It's very inspirational that you took that leap to really just make a change. So really, I commend you for the initiative and the work that you're doing right now. So thank you. So now that you heard the educators, the innovators, also let's talk about let's go back to Brandon, and let's talk a little bit about from the business side. So Brandon, what are the barriers that you see in constructions? You're in the business. You're the one like hiring those future tradesmen or tradespeople, I should say. What are the challenges that you see, and how can technology play a part in this?
we're experiencing a lot of the same problems Michael just mentioned there, and I love his perspective on it. You know, all of us in the construction industry have felt the impact of the reduced skilled trade labor force, and we've also felt the impact of those limited opportunities for individuals to learn those skilled trades. What we're really all good at is complaining about it and pointing out the problem. But as Michael mentioned, like, we've got a greater responsibility to actually do something and to support that effort. And that's what we're so excited about here at Hoopaugh. We just launched our new HGC Academy, which is a 20,000 square foot facility dedicated purely to training and development and to giving individuals opportunity not only to do their job and to give them the resources and training they need to be successful in their job, but also to present the industry and the technology in the industry to those that aren't familiar with it. We've got apprenticeship programs, leadership programs. We're going out to the local high schools, community colleges, universities to try to showcase construction in a different light. As Elizabeth said, speaking their language and showing the technology behind the construction industry. This is not my granddaddy's construction business anymore. It's evolved, it's changed. There's so much technology behind what we do now, from GPS to drones to simulators to virtual reality. The game has changed, and we have an opportunity to present this industry in a different light. And we have a responsibility to do that as well. And so that's what we're trying to do through our new academy.
So can you expand more about HGC Academy, what it is? I know you touched a little bit about it, but do you mind expanding more so we can learn more about it?
As you know, part of our frustrations of not being able to attract new people and get those with the skills to do the work that we're doing, we had a visioning process back in 2018, and this came up. This was born through that process. It's always been a passion of our owners to become a teaching company, but this academy was part of that visioning process. And so in November of last year, we cut the ribbon on it. We opened the doors. It's, like I said, 20,000 square foot facility. We've got 3 brand new CAT simulators with VR capabilities. We've got 4 state-of-the-art training rooms. We've even got a podcast studio already. So it's a fun facility where our employees can come to learn, to get the skills and resources to do the job, but we can also use it for recruiting efforts as well. We've got, like I said, the apprenticeship programs. We've got leadership programs. We also use the facility to do community education programs. It's a very holistic approach where we give them the tools and resources in the classroom, but then that also translates into field training as well, where they're able to go out and they're able to get hands-on experience with the equipment and operators. So it's a new program. It's less than 4 months old right now, but it is going well, and we're really excited about it.
Well, thank you again. So I appreciate you guys' insights and comments and really very great knowledge, and I hope that the audience here is learning from this panelists. So let's pivot a little bit and let's talk about diversity and inclusion. We know that the construction industry is very heavy male-dominated industry, right? So I'm gonna go back to Michael a little bit. So Michael, you work with various industries, various companies and organizations. And a little bit, I would like to hear from you about what can we do to increase diversity in this in the construction industry? What can educators, companies, and you name it, right? What can we do to increase diversity?
You hit a hot topic for me, so I'll try to keep it.
Please go ahead.
Quick, but when we think about diversity in anything, we have a tendency to look out and we look at other things and say that needs to be diverse, when we really need to look in a mirror and say, how do we become diverse in our company? You know, you see things over time, companies saying, we want you to be part of our culture. Well, what does that mean? You know, my culture, if I'm not filming videos, I like to golf and I have a sailboat. That culture is not the same. It's pretty homogenous, actually. It's not that diverse. Now, I acknowledge it, and I want to change how my life works. I want to change how my business works, and I want to help other people change how theirs work. Not because we're going to come in and say, okay, you're not diverse because you don't have enough people that look like Elizabeth, or you don't have enough people that sound like Jorge. You need to do something different. We don't. We look at it from a standpoint of, if you're going to change construction, and we look at construction, I think at least residentially, of what, 9% women in the industry as a whole, 1% in the field, and I think that carries through to commercial as well. You've got great companies like Brandon, and on offline conversations, heard him talking about how they're doing diverse solutions within and inclusion in their systems, but that's not commonplace. And I say it often, and Jorge, when you and I met, I said it the first time I did when it was Latoya and I. If we can't recognize that construction as a whole is both racist and sexist, we'll never change. By recognizing that these stigmas that we have, we generated. They didn't just get made up about us. We generated them, like it or not. And I don't like it. I know everybody on this call doesn't like it. So we can do things to change that. So what we're trying to do, now granted, we have a small organization that teach construction, but we're trying to say, if a barrier to inclusivity in our industry was access to education, we took our entire YouTube channel, which is only a portion of the instructional resources we have, and made it available for free on YouTube. It used to be on Vimeo behind closed doors and only part of our system, but that in and of itself is not inclusionary. So we shifted that, and we have a whole channel on YouTube at Trade Skills U that has over 100 videos that are set up as instructional process for 100% for free. And I don't say that because I'm trying to promote the tools that we have, because I don't make a lot of money on a free product. So the last thing I will say is what we're trying to do is then take all of the videos that we have and then re-record them with other people talking that don't look and talk like me. I need somebody like Elizabeth. I need somebody like you, Jorge. I need Latoya to want to come on out and film a bunch of videos together where she can say, look how I'm building this city and I'm using my skills. So I just thought I'd put her on the spot, since I know she's sitting there cringing now saying, well, oh, how do I do it? So our goal is to be able to ensure that if you've got something that's really good, make sure the community can benefit from it.
No, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate your insights on that one. And also, I'm assuming also that also impacts as you develop future talent as well, or companies develop future talent, because you basically promote people that think like me or act like me.
Right.
Am I right? Or what do you think about
It
that?
is. And as companies change and they pivot to be more like Brandon and his organization, we used to say we want to hire the most skilled person. And as any business, that's what you want to do. Well, our workforce is extremely small. So really what you need to do is find a good individual and help build them into a great tradesperson. And you need to do that by developing them, by training them, by supporting them, and then making sure that that's available to all people, not just certain people.
Good. No, thank you. Thank you for sharing. Elizabeth, since you're building virtual reality training, how do you think, and what can the industry do more about this topic specifically now when we talk about diversity and inclusion?
As far as training goes, I think just having the conversation that Michael's discussed, it's pretty raw, real, and honest. It's very transparent, and I love it. And I love that he's not holding back, because those are the conversations we need to be having, and not skating around the fact that we've done for ages. I think also the voiceovers, just representation. We talk about it all the time, but representation matters. Seeing people that look like you doing the job you want to do, or aspiring to do the job they want to do, is very important. So whether it's virtual reality gaming or the virtual reality exhibitions we have as well. In our exhibitions, we do avatars. And so we have one of Bill Isler currently, and we're working on several others, but representation matters. So having people of all shapes, colors, ethnicities, and such. So I think that would be the main thing that we could really kind of tweak. That's so simple, but isn't done very often.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. So Brandon, I heard great things about your company. I've seen it. I see your leadership group. When we met early on, Brandon, we talked about culture, and I can see your eyes lit up, Brandon, when we were talking about culture. Can you expand a little bit about culture, what it is to work at HGC, and things that you have done that is unique within your company, what you see there, and also what you see in other companies as well?
And I get excited about that. And I'm extremely we hear the word culture a lot. Every company talks about culture, but there's just a few of them that actually live that out. And so I've been a part of other companies where culture was a buzzword. It was something that you learned about during your orientation process, and you see the core values. And then that's the last time you ever talk about it. And that's the last time no one knows what those core values are or what they mean. We at Hoopaugh Grading Company, we've got a set of core values, Jorge, they govern everything we do. And it doesn't matter if you're talking to the owner of the company or you're talking to the guy that just started 90 days ago. They can tell you the core values and they know how it applies to their job and to their position. So it's not just a set of core values that we put up on the wall. We live, we hire by that, we fire by that, we train by that. It is in everything that we do. Those core values are integrity, respect, dependability, doing what it takes, and keeping things simple. And so I love that. I love being part of a team and those core values, they weren't just handed down. It wasn't something that myself or Brian said, hey, here are our core values. This is what we expect you to do. We actually took a subset of our employees, the ones that we felt like best represented our company. And we said, what are the common traits with these employees? What are the things that make them great? And we pulled those core values from that. So we pushed that out. We said, if you can do this, then you will be successful here at Hoopaugh Grading Company.
No, thank you, Brandon. Before I jump to my next question, this is the audience. If you have any questions that you want to ask to the panels, please type away. We have a chat. Latoya, do you have any questions coming from the audience at this point?
No, not yet.
Okay, so feel free to ask any questions. We welcome questions from the panel, from the audience, I should say, to the panel. So back to you, Brandon. You haven't forgotten about diversity in the industry. And also we talked about early on about diversity in the work that you are doing in your organization. So can you tell us about diversity? What have you guys done specifically to really tackle and really work on diversity and inclusion?
Being able to hear Michael and Elizabeth's perspective on this. And Michael is exactly right. We have to own the fact that as an industry, we are way behind. We were way behind the curve on this thing. And we've got a lot of work to do, but we have to be intentional about it. It's got to become something that we talk about. And as Elizabeth said, we got to be willing to have those conversations, but it's got to be intentional. And I think for us, diversity and inclusion means if we look at our team, does the makeup of our team represent the communities in which we work and live? And a lot of times that answer is no. And so we are being very intentional about making sure that our team represents this community. And whether that be race, gender, experience levels, backgrounds, we even have programs to provide opportunities to veterans, to individuals with special needs. And so that is a topic of conversation we talk about in our leadership meetings. And are we being intentional about making sure that we're doing that?
Thank you, Brandon. I'm going to go back to Michael for a second. Michael, as I listen to you, and I can definitely see your passion when we talk about trade and diversity, and this work, and the three of you definitely show your passion every single time I hear you speak. So, and I appreciate that. But I'm curious, Michael. I look at your webpage and I read how you got to this, to do this, what you do right now. But what was the reason that drove you to do this work? What was it? I mean, what triggers?
It was my upbringing, I guess. So there was a phrase that was said to me from my grandfather, who was a paper and painter, paper hanging wallpaper back in the day when it was popular. It's becoming more popular again now. But we would say as a family that you're not allowed to complain about anything unless you're willing to do something about it. So for a while, I was in two different industries. I was in construction, but I was also in hospitality. So I was often brought in as a general manager to run a property, usually remote resorts, that were also constructing and are expanding. And during that time, I complained a lot, because if you're trying to make money, but you're also trying to build and expand, those things usually are mutually exclusive. So I got a habit of complaining. And then one day I was complaining with my wife, and just as we all do, right? Something over dinner or wherever it is, and you just vent. And she looked at me and she said, if you're gonna complain about it, do something about it. And she added a little bit and said, or shut the hell up. And I remembered back to what my grandfather had said. So I said, okay, fine. I left the job I had at the time. And I told her, I said, look, I'm going to take a massive cut in pay. And I said, but give me a year. If I can make something happen in a year, this is the new path I want to use, and probably for the balance of my professional career. That was 14 years ago. And on the 12th month is when we secured funding to start a new nonprofit that was doing training for at-risk youth at the time. Those that were at risk, they're off track. Now the name du jour is Opportunity Youth. But regardless of what label you put on people, it was, how do we help somebody get past the label that's been put on them? So we created an organization to do it just out of passion and out of the fact that I was reminded that my grandfather said, quit your belly aching and do something about it, or go back to work. So that's kind of how it evolved. And from there, I created the Colorado Home Building Academy, created a lot of tools. And every time we had somebody come over and look at our operation, which I was on the news, geez, I think at every news station and CNBC and others, and which got a good word out there of people looking at what we were doing. And every time they came in, they said, wow, we like what you're doing. Where'd you find it? Or we like how you're teaching it. Where did you find it? And we couldn't find it. We had to make it. So over time, I then had one last piece where I got tired of hearing nonprofits or training programs say, gee, I wish I had or it would be nice if I had enough time to, and whatever sentence you want about those things that would make life or your program or other people's lives better, but you didn't have the time to do it. So I left that organization to start Teach Construction to do exactly that. How do we create a system? We created a digital credentialing system for the construction industry that we launched recently called Building Credentials, just so you can have a credentialing system based on 21st century technology, based on open badging technology. And we make it incredibly free or incredibly cheap, sorry, like $6 for partners to use, because it didn't exist. It was one of those, gee, I wish I had a way to show what stackable credentials our graduates have. So our focus now is solving those problems. And our focus for the future is how do we help expand those?
No, thank you. I appreciate that, Michael. Elizabeth, I want to back to you. And I review and see your website. And before I go to Elizabeth, Michael, will you please share your website so the audience can see where they can go to? Sure,
I'll put it in chat. And we can,
okay,
if we have time, I could certainly share screen, but I'd love to hear what Elizabeth has too.
Yeah, perfect. So as you guys, the panelists, if you can put your websites on the chat too, so they can see, they can take a look at your organization as well, that would be great. So Elizabeth, come back to you for a moment. One of your core values talk about creativity and passion as the backbone for solving the most challenging problems and inspiring each other to be creative with solutions. That is very intriguing to me. It is inspiring. Can you share some examples where this work has come to life?
Yeah, absolutely. Just to speak on that more, Industry Lift is in a unique situation where, coming from a marketing director for however many years, I'm not in competition with anybody. Industry Lift is here to support and build up, and it's so nice to be on this end and get to just listen to people such as Brandon and Michael and hear their stories and know that I get to be a part of just supporting them. So in that, we have a team that is so creative. And if you, as an organization company, come to us and say, I need this, or I have an idea for this, I have a team behind me that has built so much and do so much. So please keep that in mind moving forward. We're here to hear what, and we can do the how for you. So most recently, as far as that goes, we were building what's called a virtual reality exhibition. Prior to COVID, a couple months prior, actually, the discussion started. Then COVID hit and the way we operated changed. And so now panel discussions on Zoom, right? Like it's a very different world, but the virtual reality exhibition allows for you to put on a headset or a desktop, whatever you have available, and you can be more immersive. There's more to see, more to do. You can move amongst booths. It's hard to explain, but it's there and it's awesome. And I'm sure you've seen it to some extent, but our team is just building it and building out further and more and more. And this is just something we thought of before COVID. And then after COVID hit, we're like, wow, yep, this is part of it. And we've got to use it a few times over. We're looking to get to have an exhibition in June and maybe November of this year as well. And that's going to provide a lot of opportunities, not for Industry Lift, but for the companies, for the organizations, to fill the gaps, to educate, to get youth interested. In the exhibition, you can be walking around and then go up to one of our games and automatically start playing the game. It's just incredible, the technology that's there. And it's one of the things we get to offer in our sponsorship packages. And it's something we get to do to help just all the way around. So.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you. We talk about COVID. You brought up a very topic that has become business as usual for basically for all of us, right? And each of us, probably we know somebody that has been affected or business that has been impacted by COVID. So with that in mind, I'm gonna go back quickly to Brandon for a minute. And I'm curious, Brandon, how does COVID has impacted your work, but also the Academy, right? And how the Academy has been impacted because of COVID.
So COVID took us by surprise early, I guess, March, April. Everything came to a halt for us. We had projects that were underway that just stopped. We had projects that we were expecting to be working on that were just taken out of the pipeline. We were in standstill mode. And so fortunately for us, the market recovered fairly quickly, and it created a new problem where instead of this uncertainty of what the economy was going to do, now it's how do we get it all done, right? Now everything's back on go. We don't have enough people on board. We don't have enough equipment. We don't have enough resources to get it all done. It's backed up on us. And the demand started growing as well. So it created a new challenge. COVID, I mean, we've adjusted all of our processes, all of our job sites to account for COVID and the concerns and to keep our team members safe. At the Academy, we're limited as to the number of people that we can bring in there. We space them out. We do all these things. We teach them about how we can continue to be safe, but it's affected every aspect of our business. It's, one thing that we did too when COVID first hit, which I think will stay, we all moved to virtual meetings, to Zoom calls, team calls. Our owner moved into a weekly, almost like a town hall type meeting, to where it was just communication, just talking to people. We couldn't get in front of people. We weren't together, but he did this weekly webcast where he just talked to them about what was going on, what we were doing, where we were at with the COVID guidelines, the numbers. And I think that transparency and that communication was really important during this time, and something that'll continue even after COVID settles down.
Well, thank you, Brandon. Michael, anything you want to add from your perspective from your organization, what you have seen in the industry?
Sure. Well, a short one, and then how we support the industry dealing with COVID themselves. One, as a creator of content, it's hard to be distant from the talent that you have on camera. The trainer, in this case, Joe, was in all of our videos. So since my wife hadn't divorced me about all the crazy things I like to do from a social side, when COVID hit and I'm in Colorado, and our conversations about doing a full lockdown, Joe, my business partner, ended up moving in with us because we couldn't take that 2 weeks or that 30 days that would be required to just be apart and have nothing happen other than of what we do. So we moved in. Now that didn't stop there. I took our basement and turned it into a studio. So the majority of the videos you see at YouTube right now is a large studio built, well, taken over in my own basement in my house. So my wife is now taking 2 weeks off and going to a retreat, I think, to get away from me for a little bit, but she's so fearful of what she's going to see when she comes home, and why there's a stack of lumber in the garage and what I'm going to be building. But from a perspective of COVID and supporting education, originally we were creating content for the teacher. It wasn't about us. It wasn't about our face on camera. It was about providing an image library of good work, bad work. It was about creating tests for them, all sorts of things that you just never see. COVID changed that. So we had to put ourselves in front of the camera, and so we can create those videos, because teachers couldn't do it. They don't have an understanding wife to allow their partner to move in and take over the house with construction sites. So it changed how we created product, but I think for the better. And as Brandon said, there's a lot of things in our industry and in every industry that are here to stay that were created because of a response to COVID or physical distancing requirements. And education is one of those. You see education now, in some cases successfully, in many cases mediocre, and some unsuccessfully, but that they've shifted to an electronic fashion to deliver education. I think what we'll see moving forward, even when COVID hopefully becomes a non-issue, that hybrid type learning or a blended learning environment is here to stay. You will have elements of e-learning, even in trades training, which really excites me because you didn't have a way for somebody who was in school or struggling with school to say, here are resources, go home and study, or go home and here's your homework. Now you can, and now they do have those resources, and those resources keep getting expanded.
Perfect, thank you. Well, I'm gonna stay with you for a little bit, Mike.
Sure.
And think about, you talk about education and training. So what can the industry do to be part of this construction training solution? What can we do more?
Okay, so here's one I said earlier, it was be part of the solution, but let me give you a more specific one. So we work with several partners, and one of them at a university level that does a construction management program. And a big thing he would do in his program was get students out on field trips, out on a site with Brandon's company, let's say. That can't happen now for obvious reasons, for physical distancing, other problems. Brandon's just busy trying to get back on track. It's not fair for him to have to slow down. But the next generation needs that. So what we started doing is doing virtual field trips. So we took this instructor, outfitted him with a run and gun blogging system, which is a backpack with a big battery, a camera that mounts right here. In fact, we take some of these smaller action cameras. You could put one on a helmet, you could put one on somebody and do a field trip that way. So then I can be out there with that type of setup, take maybe 1 hour of Brandon's time or his field supervisor's time in a safe environment, pull that back, either do a live stream with it, which most companies are very reluctant to do, but I get it. Or we take it back, we do a quick edit to it. We take out clips that might be misunderstood by some, and then be able to package that for schools, but make it as raw as possible. I love the video, Jorge, that you guys created and we ran at the top. And those are very, very important. I'm talking about more something that would be like that vlogger. Everybody watches YouTube and you watch people go on vacation and it's just somebody standing with a camera. Our younger generation expects that gritty quality. And I think we can very easily create that on sites like Brandon's in a safe way. So that's one way that I think industry can engage in education. And my apologies for using 20 words when 2 probably would have been enough.
No, that's good. I love it. I love it. Thank you. No, I appreciate that. So Elizabeth, back to you. Before I go to Elizabeth, do we have any questions coming in, LaToya?
None from the chat. I actually have a couple questions, if it's okay to ask.
Please, dive in.
Okay, so I am, again, you all are amazing. This conversation is rich, and thank you for your expertise, your passion. That's why we wanted to partner with you on this event. My question is for Brandon. I wanted to talk about the triple bottom line and what that means for Hoopaugh Grading. You personally, I know in your personal life, you had some impact in this area as well. So how does the triple bottom line impact your industry, your company, and then what does that mean for the future of trades training?
Tell me what triple bottom line. Tell me.
Yes, I apologize. So that is, your definitely your revenue, your income, but it's also the sustainability, and this is the social impact. Like, so it's not just the financial impact that companies are looking for now. It's more than just the financial piece.
Toya, that's something you don't know about me. I didn't get to tell you this early on. So when I'm not here at Hoopaugh Grading, I sit on your side of the desk on the nonprofit side. And my wife and I started an organization called Dream on 3, make sports dreams come true for kids with special needs. And so I know the grind of the nonprofit side, Michael and Elizabeth and you, that you go through. I say that to say it is part of our DNA to make sure that we are not just taking from this community, that we are also investing back into it. That is part of what makes up this team. And so it is extremely important that we are not just focused on our revenue, we're focused on our investment back into the communities in which we work and live. We do that in a ton of different ways. And that's something that we're constantly looking at and exploring. But yeah, that's extremely important to us.
Thank you for that. And thank you, Jorge, for the time.
Okay, no, thank you. Any other questions from the group or the chat? From you, Latoya?
No questions just yet.
Okay.
I just wanted to highlight really quickly that these are all 3 organizations, including 4 organizations, Generation T, that She Built This City does work with, and they support our work. Some are still in conversations, but I'd love to kick the mic over to Michael to talk about how we'll be partnering very tomorrow and something you'll be able to find on our social medias.
That is great, and thank you for bringing it up. We have offered and we've created a course on our online learning portal specifically for She Built This City. So the sampling of content, anything from reading a tape measure. I think we've gotten there some basic plan reading. We've got some material, understand dimensional lumber, understand why a 2x4 doesn't measure as a 2x4. And some deeper dives as how to use some of the power saws and such. So if you go to actually follow the social media content from She Built This City, they will provide a link right into the classroom on our virtual Trade Skills U learning portal. You can create an account and for no cost to you, learn some of those. I encourage you, watch a video, take one of the quizzes. Don't just watch a video, challenge yourself to say, did I really retain the knowledge that was in the video? We try to create these tools, not just for informational, but for educational. And education can come in many, many different ways, as we all have lots of these conversations. So you have an opportunity to teach yourself some content. You're not going to teach yourself a skill. I'm not showing you that you're going to be a cabinet maker just by understanding the safe usage of a tool, but you are going to be one step closer to that goal.
No, thank you. Thank you. That's very insightful. So a couple more questions, and just to be mindful of time as well. If you have the ability to create, and I go back to Elizabeth and come back to you in a minute, Michael. Elizabeth, if you have the ability to create immediate change within the trades, what would you do? If it's up to you right now, you can make that impact. What would you do?
I think what we're all saying is just kind of breaking the stigmas around the industry. It's so easy to say, gender, compensation, that kind of thing, but just breaking the idea that you have to go to college to have a successful career. It's not true. You have to go to college to have a job that you love. That's not true. Stopping the push of sitting behind a computer screen to work. We've really done a misservice to previous generations by not having the conversation of working with your hands, or even like Brandon was talking about, the technology behind it is amazing. And you don't have to come out with massive amounts of debt like I did to have a successful career. Brandon talking about all the technology that's available, including drones, having those conversations, having them early and often, getting your children involved to see. I have a 3-year-old, he loves tools, even at 3. He loves it all, the drones, everything. And my husband and I have already discussed having those conversations with him, giving him every opportunity to discover what he wants to do. I'm married to a man who went to apprentice school and came out with no debt and has an amazing career and has moved up and has done really well for him. So I see the testimony every day. So just breaking the stigma around that, I think, will be monumental. So yeah.
And it's something fascinating that you just said about the stigma, because as a father, I've seen it, right? So where we have the only option, we thought it was go to college, a 4-year degree. That when I start leading this work on Generation T, I have to, as a father, I have to fight that stigma. Why do I feel like trades is something less than?
Yeah.
And we need to remove that perception, where now I'm encouraging my kids, myself, hey, you're going to skill trades. You can really be you can make really good money and you can start your own business as well. So you're absolutely right from that perspective. Thank you for saying that. Brandon, the same question for you. If you have the ability to create immediate change within the trades, what would you do?
Elizabeth's exactly right. We've got to change the stigma on it, but to not copy her answer and to come up with something unique. we've got to collaborate, and we've got to get together. It's got to be an effort between the nonprofit organizations, the business communities, the education community. We've got to come together in forums such as this to discuss our challenges and solutions. And I think that is that's missing right now.
Mhm. Thank you. Michael, the same question for you.
Well, I'll buck the trend a little. Yes, we need to change the stigma, but we don't need to change the stigma. We deserve the stigma we got. We need to change the industry. We need to stop thinking when somebody new gets hired that I'm going to make them experience all the pain that I had when I got hired. We don't need to haze people. We need to understand the labor force has changed. The expectations of a labor force has changed. When we first came out with the term millennial for a generation, those of us who aren't millennials poked fun at it. No offense, Elizabeth, but we said, oh, they all want this, or they all need to know a future, and they want to save the world. And cynics, us, and construction has more of them than normal, said, yeah, whatever, they'll comply to what I need. That is not true. When I ask companies, why should someone come work for you? Or more importantly, why should they stay for you? Their answer is the same, because I give them a paycheck. Well, why should they stay with you? Well, I give them a paycheck. We as an industry need to recognize that is not the motivator. Yes, we all need to make money, but people are different, fundamentally different now. We have different expectations, thankfully, or we would have ruined this world. But maybe we're moving towards a fact where our expectations of a labor force are not something that should be shied away from. We should embrace those. We should make those changes, and we won't have a stigma because we won't deserve a stigma anymore.
Mhm.
And I sound like I'm
Okay.
having a stump speech here today. It's not my
No,
intent.
no, you're fine. I love it. So with that in mind, I'm gonna stay with you for my. I have one more last question for you all. Latoya, before I go to the last question and pass it back to you, any question from the audience?
No, sir.
Okay, that's good. That's good. So what advice would you have, Michael, for parents and educators, and from your
Parents
perspective?
and educators, I think I would go, it's funny. I do believe the statement where we in construction say you don't have to have a 4-year degree, you don't have to have debt to have a good career. That is a true statement. But what I don't want to do is put ourselves in a fight against the college and career path that way versus the trade pathway or some other pathway. It's a fight we don't have to play. I would rather us look and work for the community, the industry, and families and say, support any path. If somebody wants to go to college, great. Consider construction when you're done with college. If somebody doesn't want to go to college, great. Consider construction when you don't go to college. They should be equal and can be equal. So I get the reason why we position ourselves, us versus that. But I think that's part of a problem in our space. Why not say, this is a viable option? Let's look at great career opportunities, no matter what your education goals are.
Mhm. Thank you.
So for parents, I would say, just consider it. That's all I ask. Don't have to support it today. You may not have thought about construction, but just consider it.
Mhm. Well, thanks, Michael. Elizabeth, the same question for you. What advice would you have for parents and educators?
Mine's pretty similar to Michael's in that just consider it. I would consider to just watching your children's talents early on and start nurturing that, and then helping them find it, whether it's college or else. One thing when my brother, who's 6 years younger, was starting to look at college and careers, everyone said, what degree are you going to get? What degree are you going to get? And taking away the idea of like, what degree are you going for? But rather looking at someone who's doing what you want to do and then work your way backwards. How did they get there? So do that with your children early and often. Is what talents and nurturing do you see? And as they get older and more into those adult years, what do you want to do conversation, and then have them look at it down backwards, rather than starting with a degree and then getting out of college and then being like, okay, what do you want to do with a business degree now? More specified. What are you looking for? And if that's skilled trades and that's your child, don't be afraid of that.
Thank you. I appreciate that for your insights. Brandon, the same question. What advice would you have for parents and educators?
Parents, I need people to give me parenting advice. I probably screwed this up myself, but when we see that our children have an interest in trades, or if your kid loves big trucks and things like that, we don't need to discourage them from the things that that they like. We need to show them how opportunities exist for them to have a career and still do the things that they love. And I think too often we discourage them, trying to point them to something else. So I do think we've got a responsibility as parents to change that mindset and to show them that they can have a successful career doing something that they're passionate about. For the educators, I think the one thing that we could going back to the collaboration, I would encourage the educators to consider the business community a resource and an ally. Like, what can we do to help educators to be able to have these classes? Can we work together to where someone gets a construction related degree, but they've done it while working in construction? Maybe at the same time they're working here at our company, but also earning credit towards their degree, and that gives them real life experience, but it also gives us an applicant pool that we've got at the end of it. So I would encourage them to consider us an ally and reach out, and let's work together to find a solution.
Thank you, Brandon. Well, thank you all for your time this afternoon. I'm going to pass it on back to Latoya.
Thank you, Jorge. Thank you so much for leading this conversation. Your insight and perspective really brought open a beautifully diverse conversation around this industry. Thank you so much. Thank you to everyone who joined us today. Thank you to our panelists. This conversation is needed. To your point, I believe it was Brandon, might have been Michael, who said, this is the kind of thing we need to do on a more regular basis. Industry, nonprofit, education, let's come together and see how we can together tackle this problem. And so that we can come up with collaborative solutions. And so thank you for being a part of the solution today. Thank you to our panelists for joining. We're close to the end of our March speaker series. We have a few more events coming down the pipeline, a virtual event on Sunday with author Minda Hart from the book, The Memo. We have a community conversation next Wednesday evening around the intersectionality of women and the many diverse hats we wear when we enter the workplace. This conversation has been enriching. I appreciate your time and I look forward to engaging more. Until next time.